Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Opinions. Today we're tackling a week that's all about humiliation and exposure, and we've got a lineup that's sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. We're diving into the word of the week that's been on our minds, humiliation, a word that's perfectly suited to this crazy week in politics. On the record, our own contributing writer, David Wallace Wells, has chosen that word to capture the sting of America's latest embarrassments. I'm Michelle Cottle, your national politics correspondent for the New York Times Opinion. Joining me today are David French, a slick columnist who's never been afraid to call out the politics that matter, and our favorite other David Wallace Wells, back again for his unflappable take on the headlines. It's been a wild week, so I'm starting off with a quick game. I asked the Davids what word might sum up the craziness of it all. David Wallace Wells immediately said, humiliation, pointing out the embarrassment of President Trump's failed ceasefire with Iran, the online left's humiliation over Graham Platner, and even a touch of the nation's 250th year could be a backdrop for this ripple of awkwardness. David French added his own twist, picking exposure as a word of the week, noting how the world is slowly coming to terms that we're no longer the default partner on the global stage. And that's exactly where we're landing, the exposure of a country that once reigned as a singular voice of global trust, now being questioned by foreign actors and even by its own public servants. Gregory Platner, who was running for the Senate, saw his candidacy collapse under scrutiny, a story that many imagined to be an interruptive blow to the establishment. And the stare back on our stockpile of senators is led by Mitch McConnell, who has been hospitalized for several weeks and who now raises fresh questions about how much privacy deserves a public servant when they're a task force member. Let's unpack the humiliation in the two big stories of our week. First, President Trump's attempt to resolve a long-standing fighting line over Iran fell flat, leaving the United States over the brink of a diplomatic disaster that embarrassed the country. On the other end, the story of Graham Platner's exit underscores a rising trend towards the purging of serious candidates, a shift that pushes the Senate and the entire political system towards a web of scandal and distrust. And finally, back on home soil, with McConnell in the greenhouse, we're debating how to hold the public to a standard of privacy when the doctor who turned incident into an incident such that the number of lines is enormous. How do we balance public expectations and personal protection? That remains the most pressing question. SOP confusion and doping breakout. By the way, if you're listening in on multiple car players or you're on the New York Times app, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, iHeartRadio, or anything else, be sure to collect our show variable, and if you're going to discuss the world of politics, Ouijiangdad left the humanity in the harms. Thanks to the Vikings X the full ice system offering. In the end, it's a reminder that politics is not a spectator sport, it's a series of public embarrassments that unfold under a million eyes. We appreciate your listening. Until next time, keep reading The Root, keep critiquing the. Keep your voice loud. Stay required each at I prisoner.